Hello and welcome back again to Rage Gaming and more Monster Hunter Wilds beta. To say the least, each weapon has had a mix of impactful changes with this update, be they some more passive things with new combo options, or more obvious stuff like entirely new attacks. But what's the best thing that each weapon has received in this new Wilds version? That's what we're aiming to talk about for every weapon today. So let's begin. Running down the list in the usual order, we'll start with Greatsword. And I talked to Josh about this one because obviously he's a resident Greatsword main. And well, his answer was straightforward. It's a hard call between the two sides of the ease of landing your true charge slash consistently thanks to simply aiming with focus mode, coupled with how easy it is to actually get to true charge slash now. So obviously you have your usual technique of quick draw on the first attack, maybe a full charge second attack, and then the true charge slash in full value pretty quickly. This can now be sped up by using a tackle during an attack, as I've talked about before. They're now allowing tackle to maintain the previous attack's charge level. So let's say you do a draw slash and then you go into part 2 of the combo. You begin charging, you get to charge level 3, and then the monster's about to interrupt you with an attack, so you tackle it perfectly. On this perfect tackle, you get to maintain your charge level, and yet skip forward in the combo. In this example, you'd end on true charge slash, which is already fully charged up from the previous charge level, ultimately meaning you can get to a true charge slash really quickly using this method, consistently and repeatedly, as we expected after the Gamescom demo stuff. Also, you could just do a clash by perfect guarding right as you're about to be hit, and follow that up with a true charge slash instantly. So there are multiple ways to do it, and the consistency of accurately landing that on the perfect location, head, tail, whatever, thanks to focus mode aiming, is incredible. And as simple and kind of mundane as that concept is, not like a new flashy move. Josh was telling me that this is the first demo of any Monster Hunter game that he's played, and he's literally played them all, where he's not been suffering because, you know, demo sets don't have focus for Greatsword, you don't have that ability to speed up the charging, and yet he still feels really strong immediately in this version, for the first time in a demo. So yeah, it's doing pretty well. But is it doing as well as Longsword? Hard to say much is. For Longsword, it's a hard pick because there's so many incredible things for the gameplay. Whether that's the ability to cancel mid-helm, or multiple new ways to level up the gauge like holding R2 for the new special roundhouse, or focus mode. Longsword focus mode attacks can hit multiple wounds and get more charges because of it, and I think it's one of the best focus mode attacks because of that. But the thing is, for one best thing for the weapon, we think easily the best addition is the hyper armor. What I mean by that is simple. If you imagine back in Worlds you equip, say, a rock steady mantle. While that was equipped, you'd receive less damage from attacks and gain a sort of protection against most damage reactions, meaning you wouldn't flinch and you're actually really hard to knock down or interrupt in any way. Essentially, hyper armor. Now, Wild's Longsword has 2 instances of hyper armor during attacks that are insane. You can have hyper armor during the thrust part of a Helmbreaker, the part where you begin to thrust forward to activate the follow-up leap into the air. And as you can see, that means you can't be interrupted during the thrust. And yet, if you are hit during that, you also take reduced damage. That alone will be huge, but it also works for the last part of our new Helmbreaker combo. This kind of spirit release slash that follows up after the Helmbreaker, dealing even more damage to the location you slashed, even at range. During that animation, you amazingly have hyper armor as well. This means Longsword can tank some of the hardest hitting stuff in the game right now with one of its main combos. This is why I think it's a bit too much for one of the strongest combos in the game right now to also have this much hyper armor. But you know, at the same time, if it doesn't get nerfed at release, it's not like I'm bothered. I don't mind if people are having fun with it. Next up then, we had the Sword and Shield. And while it didn't get much flashy new stuff, it did get a new attack and multiple focus mode options. And generally, I think the passive stuff is actually really impactful. But it's the stuff like being able to charge up the side of a monster and accurately hit a wound on the back, unlike most other weapons. The very impactful perfect guarding and how that can come from standstill so suddenly. That new attack then is Charge Chop, where you just hold triangle and circle together to use it. And it feels great, and you even get a damage boost after most combo finishes. It's just a bit slow, but it smoothly works into a standard combo as a follow-up after Spinning Reaper. So as an example, you could send 3 shield attacks out, then follow that up with a Spinning Reaper into a Charge Chop, and then end with a triangle. This actually seems like the new consistent high DPS combo that you'd send out during the safer windows. Again, since you get a damage boost after that Charge Chop, it's important to try to do that to maintain it, but the Charge Chop and the combo overall is long, so it has to be done when, say, a monster's down or in a trap, where, you know, you might before think about perfect rushing. As a different thing though, Perfect Guard is incredible on SNS. You're able to block at the drop of a hat better than most other weapons it feels. It gets an absolutely fantastic follow-up in a free Spinning Reaper, meaning you can actually instantly combo off of that, unlike normal. Of course, you still have the back hops into say Perfect Rushing, but honestly, with how good the Perfect Guard from nothing feels while the monster's active, my brain is kind of fishing for that. And the back hop and the iframes are still nice, it's just definitely overshadowed by the fast Perfect Guard stuff, but also especially the new DPS behind the charge chop combo. So that's my thing for SNS, the incredible potential of the hyper fast guard from Standstill and the new max DPS combo with charged chop. Now it's time to talk about my main weapon though, which is Duel Blades. For this one, I can't really decide between the two best things. So the best additions are between the new Blade Dance combo combined with Demon Flurry, resulting in the longest Blade Dance possible, but also you have much better tracking during it by using focus mode, and you can move mid-combo with, weaving in the Demon Flurries. And you can stop the combo if the timing isn't right. Because previously you press Blade Dance and then you're stuck in a really long combo. Here you can just stop and, not continue if you want. But this is compared to the new Demon Dodge and the damage enhancement buff that provides. Demon Dodge is a new thing where if you evade right as you're about to be hit, you do something called the Perfect Evade. This is called Demon Dodging. And now, for about 8 seconds, you have a blue buff on your character. During this, every evade now also attacks. And you can extend it by pressing triangle to do a kind of spiral spin. This feels incredible because it's great mobility, great damage, especially in Archdemon mode where it's costing you basically no stamina either. It's really fun. But the big thing here is that by activating Demon Dodge, you also have 8 seconds of enhanced damage, meaning your physical damage and your element damage is now raised while you have that buff. So the optimal way to play, like a speedrunner or something, is to maintain this Demon Dodge buff to maximize your output for say Blade Dances and so on. So yeah, the passive benefits of Demon Dodge, or the incredible nature of Blade Dance combined with Demon Flurry, allowing you to move around, do a longer combo, resulting in better DPS, but with more control to stop or move during it. It's just great. It's like classic Duel Blades, but better. And that is a huge success. Next up, we have Hammer. It's another one that there's a lot I could say about being the best thing added for it. Between the way Spinning Bludgeon is now a choice to make after most any attack, which will lead into a potential offset with the upswing attack at the end of that. Or hey, the fact that upswing attack is now an offset that you can even hold to prep for a really long time as a great way to land an offset more reliably. But, we have to put all of that aside because, we have to pick the new move, Mighty Charge. It's currently, to my understanding, the biggest single hit in the game for the motion values of it, which competes, yes, with Greatsword's True Charge Slash and is arguably better to my understanding right now. That makes it the best possible wake-up hit if so, and you can combo it from raw charges. Or various follow-ups, like instead of the Big Bang 5, you instead do a Mighty Charge. So not only that, but you can hold it and swing it over and over and even move during it. Not a lot, but enough to get close enough to position for a land for a wake up, or to make sure, with focus mode as well, that it hits exactly on the head. So it just feels absolutely incredible. Next up then we have the Hunting Horn, and the obvious one for this is a new ability, that Echo Bubble, which you basically place down and then it reverberates those echoing notes that you're playing during your songs out. So as you're doing your different performances, doing your encores, making the most of those performances, you're also echoing it out in this bigger bubble. And you can have up to 3 of these down at any one time, which means those echoing notes are hitting in a wide-reaching area, all around a monster, multiple hits, or just making sure that they don't miss. This is really nice, undeniably, but for me, my favourite thing about the new Hunting Horn is actually the way you store notes. And this is to do with their new offset melody. Now, offset melody is a really awkward melody for an offset attack. The idea is to throw out an attack that as the monster's about to hit you, your weapon hits them and it knocks it down. Really satisfying counter-style gameplay that requires more skill than the counters we saw in Rise. Fine. But the issue with Hunting Horn's offset melody is that it's really long. You have to do a orange, which is a triangle and circle together, right? Then a red, which is a circle, then a triangle and circle again, and then a triangle. And that kind of stores the offset melody, at least for a while. You're now ready to just throw it out when you need to, and just like the Hammer's offset, you're able to hold it for quite a long time before sending it out, making it actually one of the more reliable offsets. But again, the problem is if you have to do this 4-part long-ass combo before doing the offset, you're not going going to have it in time when, I don't know, Raidal flies up into the air for a big smash. You're not going to prep it in time. So what I really like about storing notes is with the new wound attack. While you're doing that wound attack, you can store notes. So instead of having to do this 4-part long combo and watching these animations as he does all these different things, you just press the combo smoothly, middle of the wound attack, that stores it. You now have a stored offset to throw out whenever you want. By, in this case, on PlayStation controller, pressing R2, triangle and circle at the same time, basically at the drop of a hat, or in prep for when the monster's doing something and you want to just stand there with the offset ready to go. It is really cool design, so everything to do with storing melodies needs you to understand how the hunting horn works and basically plan out what you want stored to throw out at the drop of the hat, which is a lot of the time going to be basically having at least one prepared offset melody. So yeah, really cool stuff. For the lance, I'm just pleased in general. I always found its solid core is nice, but there was not a lot of depth behind it. But these days we've got a lot more in Wilds with the shield side of the weapon, the improved combos, the smoother side hop pokes, and so on. But to pick one thing quickly, I actually just think it's the main poke combo for me. You have this new 4th poke, as it were, which is actually a triple poke. So you do your classic 3-poke combo, and then you follow that with this new triple poke that's fitting perfectly. It's just satisfying. As well as being able to choose between this, well, series of pokes, or go for the counter jab at the end of the triple combo, which feels really smooth too. The counter jab allows for a bit of charging up too, so you can maximize its poke value, or go for a counter and get the benefits of landing a counter. This is on top of all the other stuff like perfect guarding, which feels super smooth to do. The power guard being one of the most reliable and safe things to do in general, as well as obviously the wound attack feeling really impactful too. Pressing up against a monster, poking it on its front side, and then generating lots of wounds to smoothly combo into, really impactful. And even someone that's not like a big lance main, I'm just getting a lot of value out of this really quickly and very easily. So as short and sweet as this one was, it's easily my favorite one thing for lance. The triple poke special at the end of the triple poke combo, or the counter jab as the kind of center of the entire weapon. Moving on to gun lance then, of course. My favorite thing for gun lance is also hard to pin down exactly because there's both passive core gameplay improvements that are deserving of praise, but then multiple new flashy moves like the literally better wormstake, the wormstake full blast, or the new wound attack drill move Drake Alga, which is really cool. But if I have to pick one thing, I know what I want to say because it just feels amazing, and it's the new combo that you follow up after any wide sweep. Basically, simply, you can combo into a wide sweep in a variety of ways, and probably the most basic way is the triple triangle combo. After whatever wide sweep you reach though, you go straight into the wormstake full blast, which is now followed up by the multi-wormstake full blast. Essentially, why land one wormstake when you can land two, back to back in the same combo, and it even reloads midway through to make that possible, so it's just a dream. But then you can smoothly transition into a wyvern fire charge blast after, since the monster's probably reeling. And the fact that you get 2 charges for wyvern fire itself to build up and manage means you could potentially combo them if you have both, or just always have one going. So honestly, I think this is one of the best new combos in the game, and so it has to be the thing that I highlight here. Next, let's talk about Switch Axe. This is another favorite of mine, and it has some serious changes to it. But to pick one specific thing, I think it's actually a combo. There's a lot of new stuff, right? Like the offset attack in Axe mode or the counter in Sword. But what I want to talk about is the new special attack, the Unbridled Slash, or its amped version, the Full Release Slash. It really takes the cake for me. The current loop bounces between zero-sum discharges and this new Full Release Slash, and I really like it. Let's say you're about to attach using zero-sum discharge. You could go to town on a knockdown monster, using the sword for maximum DPS. Then as the monster's getting up, you attach with the zero-sum discharge, and then blow it up, maintaining great DPS. A classic concept, but now you spent a lot of your charge, but your amp state's still there for a little bit longer. What can you do to get the last bit of this gauge and charge? You could go for the new Full Release Slash by just pressing yourself against the monster and letting all those hits land in an optimal moment. Even smaller punish windows will work for that because the setup for it's pretty solid. The idea is it's meant to force you back to Axe mode, and in this scenario, probably like without any gauge at all. But you come out in Axe mode, and the thing you can follow it up with is actually the end of your 3-part triangle combo. This is arguably the best Axe gauge builder attack, the Spiral Burst Slash. So right after you do Full Release Slash, you're really low on gauge, and you can immediately send out a spiral burst slash, building back up the gauge massively. This feels incredible and gets you straight back into it without having to pay the price of using the new move. And I mean, you can also do a standing zero-sum discharge without attaching. This can then be comboed into the full release slash, and then there's potential for an instant spiral burst slash to recover the gauge after that. But yeah, that's easily my favorite detail about the new switch axe. And none of that's in the weapon control info either. So I hope this detail about the spiral burst slash follow-up is something that can help you, because for me, it was a game changer. Next, let's talk about the new charge blade, which, my god, there's so much awesome about this. You can now overcharge your vials for increased benefit. Like, say, generating your shield buff, it just lasts longer. Power axe mode feels incredible. They've brought back that kind of chainsaw style gameplay that we saw in Rise, but it's just part of your moveset. You can easily activate it by just like breaking a wound using focus mode, or you could land a perfect guard and go straight into it from there. They really encourage the idea of perfect guarding because obviously you might also trigger a clash. In Power Axe mode, vials get half expend rate, allowing you to do many attacks with this for much longer. Simple stuff like, you know, the new ability to charge your shield, put the sword in the shield and then hold circle on a PlayStation controller and you do this awesome push forward with the shield. Everything just feels smoother about Charge Blade. With the little small additions, like that new over-the-shoulder attack to extend the new Savage Axe combo, leading into an element discharge, or the way you can combo an element discharge into an SAED. Or instead of like perfect guarding and going into your Savage Axe, go straight into an SAED. For me, Charge Blade overall feels like there's more ways to get to the thing you want than ever, and as one of the more complicated weapons, it's feeling a lot easier to get into as a newer player. So if I had to pick like one thing for Charge Blade, it's the way that they've added different paths to get to the different results you want. Next, let's talk about Insect Glaive, and Josh was the one dabbling with this, and he was telling me that the one thing he would pick for it is the new triple essence spender, the cycle around that. When you have all three extracts, you can hold circle to charge, right? And then do a powered up ground combo. If you do that while in focus mode though, obviously, at the same time you're going to be using the Kinsect in its cool combination attacks. So you do this powered up combo, you focus mode aim and then circle again, and this consumes all three extracts you had to leap up into the air to do this cool new swirly move. Visually cool, actually very impactful in terms of damage. So with the new ability to attack in focus mode with your Kinsect, you're spending all your essence on that attack, sure, but you're hitting the three body parts of the monster with the flying Kinsect, which is going to generate 3 more essence with the focus mode attacks. So you're back to 3 essence instantly after your big hit, allowing you to go into another one essentially immediately. So perfectly cycling through your super attack over and over again. The big bonus here is that once you open wounds, you can do the wound popper attack, which will fire the Kinsect through the monster as a follow-up after all that damage. But again, that can potentially extract all 3 essences as well. So essentially, if you're playing right and positioning well, you can spend all 3 essence and gain them back over and over and over in really solid ways. And I think this new gameplay loop is incredibly satisfying, if not hard, but worth the effort. Right, that brings us to Light Bowgun as the first of the 2 bowguns. For this, we're going to be talking about the energy system. It's called Rapid Fire mode, and essentially what it does is it just gives you rapid fire, like burst fire, while you have that energy. To generate the energy, you just need time to pass or deal damage, but while it's active, it's like just having a permanent extra oomph to every single shot, and you really feel it. The crux of the gameplay change for a Light Bowgun here, though, I think is about generating wounds and shooting them, because obviously you do bonus damage to wounds. And obviously, focus mode is not much of a thing for a weapon that's already permanently aiming anyway, but you get something called chaser shots that charge the rapid fire gauge faster than normal, firing off basically extra potent missile shots. The focus mode attacks are a great way to break runes, obviously, but do have a bit of delay to them, so require some good timing and aim since they have travel time. But, you know, there's not much more to say than that. It's a very simplistic version of Light Bowgun, ultimately living and dying by its new meter system, the new gauge you build and spend, around targeting wounds as much as you can. So I think that new mag you attach with the rapid fire mode is my favourite thing for this new version. For Heavy Bowgun then, it's hard to pick one thing. You now have this auto guard shield that triggers when aiming and facing at a monster, or you can actually cause clashes with the intentionally timed guard. You use it like a forgiving counter in terms of use and timing. You press it to potentially trigger a clash, which is awesome to be able to do as a ranged weapon. Then you've also got the new focus mode attacks, which feel even better than the Light Bowgun's version. They're also heavy missiles, but these lodge into the monster, which then explode after a delay in much more impact. The thing is, you fire it like a sniper and can fire up to 3 in one go into one wound, which really stacks up the potential. So I find it both more satisfying and impactful than the light bowgun's very similar focus mode attack. The other thing is that we have a new gauge called the ignition mode, which again is very similar to the light bowgun. So yeah, you build it with time passing or damage dealt, but in this case it's familiar, it's just wyvern fire, a machine gun style fire rate that you just hold down. The thing is, the new impactful thing here is actually during ignition mode. You get a unique attack where you hold triangle to use a new offset attack. You push out this special shot and hold it and deal more damage the longer you hold it. The monster needs to be right up against you, but it's really effective as just a forceful hit for its impact, even if you don't land the offset. But if you time it right, of course it becomes even more effective. Overall, it feels much more unique and updated compared to light bowgun. And so I think I prefer heavy bowgun out of the two in Wilds version, which is a shame because before, I preferred light bowgun. So to pick one thing, I think it's the variety of similar additions the light bowgun also got, but for heavy bowgun, they're just better. It's a strange thing to say, but there it is. Last up for the bow, it's a pretty straightforward one. The bow does have some pretty cool stuff, but nothing like insanely special. The new focus mode attack with the auto aim onto wounds or maybe arc shot pre-positioned explosive arrows, all of that's pretty cool. But ultimately, its ability to perfect dodge using the new discerning dodge, being basically built into the weapon and also refunding stamina, kind of keeps you firing at all times. If you're playing like up close, almost melee bow, it's insane potential. And once skills like evade window and stamina skills will come into play, anyone remotely functional with the bow will be able to dodge and get this free discerning dodge trigger, essentially firing infinitely because you're gonna always have the stamina, which is a really dangerous concept. People have been loving this new version of bow though, and at the core of it, this consistent stamina recovery I think is a big deal. But yeah, there you have it. That's my overview of the 14 weapons and pretty much the big one or maybe two things that have really come into play that we've learned a lot about through the beta. So if any of that appeals to you, give the weapon a try. It's the perfect time to do it. But if you guys want to add to any of these topics, let us know in the comments. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.